And this requires a lot of work in your life. So Abraham had to wait patiently. Somebody say that cuss word to your neighbor. Say, just wait patiently. Say, wait patiently for the promise. For he was waiting expectantly and confidently, looking forward to the city which has fixed and firm foundations, whose architect is builder's God. I've looked at the scriptures often in my life and thought, could I do that? I really want to do things. Could I really be Ruth? Could I really have been Joshua? 40 years, watch them all die in the wilderness. And the first words that I say about Moses is that servant of God. I'd probably tell you all the things he did wrong and what a jerk he was and how I wasted most of my life serving him and he didn't even get it to enter in. But we can all pretend that we would be that person. I want to. I desire to. I don't know how many really Jesus spoke to and they said, get up to the upper room. But I know the majority of them didn't last. I know only 120 stayed. And that was only for 49 days, 50 days, JR. Because the promises of God from Genesis to Revelation are inherited by faith and patience. The first separation deals with our immediate local surroundings. Ready? It's going to be our environment. Sounds simple, but it's something that's really challenging us right now. Because environment is, for us, it's your nation. We'll call it your country, your nation, which becomes your society, which is your culture. So when he tells God, separate from your country, he's saying separate from your culture. A country has boundary lines and limitations. The country refers to that which is familiar and comfortable, things that can ultimately restrict our walk with God. This speaks to us about our immediate local surroundings, our environment, our nation, our society, our culture. And the first thing that God says to Abram, just like one of the first things he's going to say to Ruth and anyone else who had to go through divine separation, is I'm going to separate you from your culture. Now we just think, oh, that's easy. It's one of the hardest separations you're going to go through because it's so deeply ingrained in how you see things that you don't even recognize it. This church is a miracle. It really is. The different ethnicities, the different socioeconomic. And yet still, we respect, watch what I say. I respect people's culture. I respect that. But I desire a kingdom culture for here. I desire a kingdom culture. So watch what he says to him. Where you are from speaks to you about how you see the world. Why is this important? Separate from your culture. Because your perspective, how you see things, is going to drive how you believe about things. Your environment matters. It matters. Your environment matters. I'm going to keep drilling it down. I think about me for a moment. I was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, me and Elvis. Tupelo, Mississippi, when I was born, see, if you're from Mississippi, you lose two of the S's. Tupelo, Mississippi, when I was born, had one main school that was for the older grades and one main school that was for the younger grades. We didn't have a highway. We didn't have an overpass. I don't even remember, I don't think we had a big grocery store. We had a market. We had Mrs. Jones. See, y'all don't know what I'm talking about. We had a lot of country around us, a few little roads. There was one main road. It was called Main Street. It had the diner. We had one diner. Why are y'all looking at me funny? And that was my world. That was my life. My dad would take me there and draw smiley faces on the pancakes, etc. And at 3 to 4 years old, I can remember them driving us to Memphis. Now, all I saw when we were driving to Memphis was those country roads. And we went to some apartments on the outside, and I thought, man, these are big, because I didn't see anything like that in Tupelo. But still, my only perception was country roads, about a 3-hour drive or so, 2.5, 3 hour, a bunch of curvy roads and some apartments. And that was Memphis, the big city. Until one day, my grandfather got a plane. My grandfather flew a little plane, kind of like yours, John, but not quite as nice. Not nearly as nice. That was a putter thing. And Shane, my granddaddy, put me up in that plane. I think I was his first victim. I was just a little girl. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and he flew me to Memphis. And boy, when we went up, I could see everything. I could see the town. I could see the country roads. And when we started getting in Memphis, I saw the big buildings and the highway. I saw apartments. I saw malls. I'd never seen anything like that. I didn't know it even existed. I had the same limited view of life of one road, one school, one diner until I got in that plane. That plane changed my life. Why? Because when I got up high enough, I got a different view of what a different world looked like. My view was limited by that small town of Tupelo and that country road to Memphis until I rose above it. And I think it must have been that day that I said, I'm going to go to the world. I decided that the world was bigger than Tupelo, Mississippi. And I realized that I could see a lot more from up on high. You see, God wants to change your view. He wants to change the way you see things. If I would have stayed in Tupelo, if I would have lived there the rest of my life, I promise you I would have never had a global ministry. The first reason I'll tell you that is because my mom, when I came out, named me Luann. That was my name, for real. My dad was on a business trip. My name was Luann Furr. Now, how many people are going to support Luann Ministries? Only if you're from Mississippi. My dad came in, who he traveled a lot more than my mom, apparently, and said, where's my baby? Where's my baby? Because I was born breech and I was in a, I don't know, whatever their ICU would have been, and had an umbilical cord around my neck, and he looked and said, that's yours. And here's this little tiny thing, and said, Luann. He said, that ain't her name. My mom was still knocked out. My dad's name was Paul. He said, change your name to Paula, which means little one of mighty strength. I said, you go. If you ever had a God moment. If I would have stayed in Tupelo, I could have had Luann Ministry. But my dad had a visitation by God and said, she's not going to be just a Tupelo girl. God's going to separate her from that mentality. God's going to separate her. Not that it's wrong. Listen, I appreciate where I came from. I appreciate my roots. But God's going to expand the way she sees life. She's not even going to think just like an American. She's going to go to the world and sees how the world, 75% of them live on less than $1 a day. She's going to see how life functions outside of this system. She's going to have a heart for nations, and nations she will be given. Come on, God's saying, I've got to enlarge your view, which means he's going to change your culture.